I'm a 65% great. I think I can make it work. Hi ladies and gents, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Mina, and today I'm back with another great video for you guys. But before I continue, I sincerely hope you all are having an amazing, great day and a great week and a great month. Yeah, but this is a part 2 to a story time that I did last week, which was based on my marriage with my cousin, how our relationship was and how manipulative he was, taking advantage of me. So if you haven't watched the part 1 of this story time, I'm gonna go ahead and link it above. Make sure you click on that because you're gonna be hella confused otherwise. And if you already watched that before, well, thank you so much, first of all. And secondly, let's just go ahead and move on, I guess, right? And today I obviously don't have my hot chocolate milk with me because, you know, what are the chances that we just ran out of milk tonight? Not even one glass left, which is very, very weird in this household because we always have milk. And secondly, I have a little corner right here, very aesthetically pleasing with a candle burning in the background. So I hope you guys are cozied up. Grab a snack, grab some chips, grab milk and drink for me, I guess, and we're just gonna go ahead and jump right into it. But anyway, where was I? So in the last video, I think I stopped at where I was meeting the sugar daddy, I believe, right? Let me just continue from there. So the meeting finally arrived, and since this guy has trust issues, he wouldn't let me go alone, which is not very surprising, honestly. But to be honest, I didn't even feel comfortable going alone, especially since I didn't know anything about the guy, you know. And I feel like it'd be a little awkward if he did come alone, because the guy would have probably been like, who the hell is that? Why is the guy with you when you're meeting, you know, your sugar daddy? The whole thing would be like a disaster, I guess. But he technically could have came along if he wanted and definitely introduced himself as, like, you know, a cousin, which is not a lie, or just said he was my best friend. Anything but a boyfriend or husband, and it wouldn't be as awkward. But he didn't come with me. So I ended up going with my best friend, the girl that I mentioned in part 1 of this story. And plus, it was better that she came along with me anyway because she had more experience with sugar daddies, because that was my first sugar daddy ever, if you guys are wondering. Anyway, moving on to the next point. I'm just gonna say this. All you guys need to know in this part is that this guy was loaded. I won't go into too much detail, but let me just give you guys an idea. He did own a few gas stations from different cities in Kenya. So if you guys have any idea the bread that you can make from owning gas stations, then you do the math. We finally saw him. And this guy was like balding a little bit, I guess. He wasn't too old, but he was definitely old enough to be like, I wouldn't say my dad. Maybe, it was a close one. Not exactly my dad, but like definitely twice my age at the time. So we meet at this fancy restaurant. And I remember my best friend saying, oh my goodness, this is a really fancy restaurant. She like whispered that in my ear, especially knowing that, you know, she's pretty bougie herself. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But I just smiled. I was super nervous. I was just like, this is just really wrong in so many ways, but let's see what's gonna happen. Prior to that, my best friend actually like suggested a restaurant, but he was like,
nah, that restaurant's not as good as the one that I'm gonna be taking you.
And he was okay with my best friend coming along, obviously. We sat down and we started chatting, and this guy was like staring at me. Like, actually, he was not blinking. Never mind. He was like this. Ooh, I was so awkward because I'm a very shy person, and I was just like, I literally could not even whisper in my best friend's ear. It was just really awkward. And I would try to talk and be like, hi, how was your trip? Because, you know, he's a businessman. And he was like,
it was really good. You're so beautiful. You're so freaking pretty.
I'm like,
thank you.
Yeah, this restaurant is very nice. Thank you for bringing us here. He was such a nice guy, though. We weren't really hungry, but we ordered something anyway. And it's just like, it's not my money, you know? But that is like such a bad mentality. But everyone thinks like that, especially if you're like broke and someone takes you to a nice place. You're like, I'll get whatever I want because I don't have to pay for this shit. So he pays for the food, and this guy's like carrying cash with him. I was super broke, so this was a lot of money. But poor him, he was like super embarrassed because he was like, I didn't really think you were actually gonna show up, so I didn't really take a lot of money out of the ATM. If you could come with me and we can take like another trip, we could go to some other place and I'll take you shopping and it can just be like us. I didn't feel comfortable. I mean, this guy is just a stranger, even though that sounded tempting. Anyone offers me shopping, I'll just give up my life. Just take me. I'm coming with you. But anyway, I obviously turned down the offer. On top of that, the guy at home would kill me, like literally murder me. So I'm thinking that he wouldn't give me any money on that first date, right? So I'm like, okay, so now we're just gonna go ahead and leave. It was really nice meeting you, by the way. Thanks for the food. And he was like, here's all the money that I have in cash right now. I am gonna pull out some more for myself later on. So would you take this? And plus, this includes the transportation. So 10 years ago, things were cheaper than now, and plus that is like in a third world country, things are not as expensive as here. And I'm like, sure. And he pulls out the rest of the cash and I'm like, so you're not gonna keep any for yourself? And he's like, no, I'm just gonna pull out some more. I didn't pull out a lot of money because I was hoping to take you shopping, but it's okay that you don't feel comfortable. I felt so bad. And then he gave me the rest of the money, which was 6,000 shillings, which at the time was a lot. I'm not gonna lie, especially being broke for like years. I tried to keep my composure. And me and my best friend just looked at each other and we gave each other like, you know, a very evil smile, but it wasn't like a full-on smile because he was still staring at me at this point. And he was like,
I hope that's enough. Like, I am so embarrassed. I am so sorry.
and I was just like, thank you so much. This is like pocket money for months. The 6,000 shillings is definitely not to be mistaken for 6K, obviously. So let me do a quick exchange for you guys. When the economy is like bad, like right now during the pandemic, for some odd freaking reason, the exchange rate goes like really high. And I just checked the other day, the exchange rate for $100 there is like 11,000 shillings right now, which is the highest it has been for a long time. And that just says a lot. Since the economy was better at the time, which means the exchange rate's down, 6,000 shillings was just like a little less than $100. So this girl right here is super happy and excited about the money, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do with this, you know? And then I started making all these freaking plans, and I'm like, this much money is gonna go to shopping, this much money is gonna go to food, this much money is gonna be emergency. But nah, you thought I was right? Wait for it. So it took me about 30 minutes to get home, and the reason that I say only me is because my best friend lived in the nice areas. You know how I mentioned earlier how she was bougie? Yep, this girl had, well, her family had the money. Her dad was a vice president of Somalia, and her mom owned a few clothing stores. So that's how they lived in the nice areas. And she only had 2 siblings, and the less kids that you have, the more you can give them, for sure. And I just told her to go home, even though she initially picked me up because I didn't feel comfortable being in a taxi by myself on the way there. But I guess the money cheered me up, so I was okay being in a taxi by myself coming back home. So I finally get home, and guess who was waiting for me downstairs of the apartment building? Dun dun dun! The answer is right, that was him. But he was not alone. He was with his younger brother. There was like 2 steps on the bottom of the apartment, like in a wide area. And they were just sitting there, you know, with a bunch of guys. So right when he saw me come out of the taxi, they quickly approached me, and the first thing that comes out of his mouth is,
where's the money?
so apparently the guy had prior experience to sugar daddies that I didn't know about, seemed like. And when I tell you guys, the cat literally got my tongue was definitely stuck to the roof of my mouth. I was just like, so at that point, obviously, you know, the cat still had my tongue. I didn't know what to do, honestly. All my mind told me to do at that minute was just like, hand him the damn money. Somehow part of me was just like, I can't give him all the money, I need food. So in the process of me pulling the money out of the purse, like when you have a roll of cash and like you can just slide out as much money as you want. So I just slid out. I was hoping for it to be half and half, but sadly, I only had 1 bill left in there. Yeah. And I wasn't about to, like, you know, argue with him or have a fight. He was, like, standing right there, and so was his brother, and they're just both staring, waiting for the money. So I gave him the money, and he pockets the money, obviously. I mean, another reason I couldn't say anything was because I was really scared of him. I've always been terrified of him because I felt like he knew that I didn't have many options besides him. That's why he could do anything that he wanted with me. And plus, I didn't have anywhere to go if I were to get in a really, really big argument with him to a point where, like if he put his hands on me. I didn't have that kind of relationship with my parents. And me not having any kind of relationship with them actually started at that time. I'm not going to get too deep into it because it's like definitely a trigger for me. But I'm definitely going to do a story time on my channel in the future sometime. So anyway, I don't know if I said this already, but he pockets the money just nonchalantly, just like he slipped it in there so quick, like he earned that money. I thought it couldn't get any worse, but wait for it. The next thing that he says throws me off even further. He goes like,
so you have no idea how long we've been waiting for this money today. Like, we've been sitting outside since you left.
And he continues to tell me the plans they've been making on how to spend the money. And he goes like, we had so many things. Just like, I had a lot of things in mind and that was taken away from me. And he was like, we had so much plans for this money, but we finally settled on buying the new video game that just came out. Guess who doesn't have to wait to buy the game? And he finishes that thought by saying, and that's all thanks to you. And I'm like,
Yeah. Yep.
that's all I could say at the moment. I know I've been counting the red flags, but I kind of lost count, to be honest. But I'll just say a few more in the future if I come across them. But all I know is that my ass should have definitely nipped it in the bud after the first date. And the only reason that I even went on that first date, as you guys know, is because I thought it was a joke. I was just playing his game. But after that, it was my dumbass. Absolutely. So basically the first day was just me being like stupid and basically seeing how serious he was. But everything after that was like, fool me twice, shame on me. Definitely, because I was the dumb bitch. So after that first date, he definitely was super serious about the whole thing. And it doesn't take Sherlock to figure that out, obviously. At the time, I felt like I was being used. If I did all of that at this age, I would not have 1 ounce of pity for myself. But at the time, I was definitely naive and I didn't have a lot of experience in relationships in general. And I was just very confused. I did not know what was going on. Everything was going very, very quickly for me. I mean, it's not like he threatened me with a knife, but I was just really scared of him because I was getting that vibe from him. But also because I was so brainwashed, I could only think of one thing, and that thing was making my husband happy. And right now, thinking back to that, I feel like that's one of the reasons I even continued on that stupid mission in the first place, was to try to make him happy. So my dumbass continued to go on a few more dates with the guy, but your bitch got smarter with the money. I mean, if I'm being used, might as well, right? So I eventually started keeping, 60 to 80% of the money every freaking day, and that felt good. Either way, it was my money and I deserved it. And yeah, I know you guys probably are thinking that I should have tried to keep the whole thing or risk that at least. But like I said earlier, I was really scared of him and I didn't want him to physically start abusing me. Because in my head, it was just like once he starts abusing you physically, that's the end of it. He'll just get addicted to it and he'll start doing it more. And there's just no one that's gonna come to your rescue. So I didn't want him to start. And that was part of the reason that I didn't risk like anything that would make me get in trouble with him. And you know how earlier I mentioned that his younger brother knew about this whole situation about the sugar daddy and stuff? Yeah, so that brings me to my next incident. So one day, me and him have this big ass argument, which wasn't as private as our other arguments. So the whole fam was there, yes, including the mom. What can I say? It's a small world, literally. It was a small house. So the argument got heated pretty quick, right? We're arguing, blah, 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 and his brother just comes out of nowhere, and this guy calls me a bitch for having a sugar daddy when I was married, and for using that sugar daddy for his money. First of all, that's what sugar daddies are. Duh. I mean, I do blame the brother, but part of me did not blame him 100% because I just knew that he was coming to his brother's defense. So anyway, that word really hurt, especially the fact that he said it in front of the whole family, I was caught off guard. I expected him to say that privately to me. I mean, he was that type of guy. How do I describe him? He was the literal definition of not having a filter mouth. Okay. So anyway, I was pretty hurt. I honestly would not care as much either if he said it to me privately, because I at least would not have felt as embarrassed as I did. And with everyone looking at me, they were like the whole place was just like mouths open wide. I'm not gonna lie, guys, that was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. I would like my tan ass turned pink. Like, I never turned pink or anything like that, but I was just wanted to cover my face. And I also felt attacked because I knew that in everyone's eyes I was the only one at fault and the brother was not. Not to mention that was their sibling and they would always have his back, you know. And even though I was caught very off guard, I still managed to get out this little thought of mine. So I turned to him and I was like, you do realize it was Big Bro's idea to begin with, right? And he's the one that's benefiting from this situation more than I am. And that is assuming that they didn't know about the money I was keeping. So I concluded that, not to mention, even if it was my idea, your brother is not man enough to provide for me, for us. At the time, I was really hurt, but now that I think back to it, those words might have been a little harsh. Just a little bit. Especially saying that in front of his family, you know? Like putting his pride down like that. I instantly felt bad. But first of all, to be fair, it was true, right? And secondly, why was I the only one that was getting backlash for it when it wasn't even my idea to begin with? I was hurt too, especially feeling attacked. On top of that, I thought I was supposed to listen to whatever my husband said. I mean, right? So that little thought of mine managed to shut his mouth real quick. So there was a few more incidents where he made me sell a few gold items that I owned because we were so broke. Let me just share this with you guys before I get too deep into that thought or that idea. Normally when girls get married in my culture, they get thousands of dollars worth of gold for their wedding, right? Along with the wedding, obviously, I mean, you can't not have a wedding and just have gold. In my situation, I only had the wedding. And the reason I only had the big wedding and not the gold was because his mom decided to throw a bigger wedding than most people. And surprise, surprise, my useless family did not come through to help with any of the wedding expenses, including the gold. So I didn't get no gold. The typical gold things that most people get includes a big ass bracelet that's like that big and very heavy in weight, smaller bangles, a few of them, a few earrings that are different shapes and sizes, a few necklaces that are different shapes and sizes as well, longer and few of them like almost choker like. I totally forgot about the rings, and depending on how rich your family is, that's almost the bare minimum that you get, whatever I just described, and then you can go up from there. And I didn't get none of that, not even one tiny small earring. So now that I explained what that is, I'm gonna go back to my point from earlier, okay? And when I say a few gold items, I mean the gold that my mom bought us right before she was about to permanently ruin our lives, you know, by taking us back home and trying to keep us there and lying about it, which I really, really want to get into detail about that, but right now, no. I have to stay on topic. But yeah, if you're interested in that story, comment down below so I'm encouraged to do it, because it's like a complete trigger for me and I really am avoiding to doing it. But I feel like it's gonna make me feel better to share that with the rest of the world. But the gold items that we each got was one necklace with our name, one bracelet. I think we had 2 rings and 2 earrings, I believe. I don't remember exactly. I really missed that necklace. It was so cute with my name on it. I loved it. But that was one of the only times he actually enjoyed going out with me and was not embarrassed by me. And that was when we went to the jewelry shops, jewelry stores to sell my gold. So we both can have pocket money and he can have his video game money. And I swear, I feel like me selling my gold brought him some joy. I'm pretty sure it did. Anyway, there were numerous trips to the gold store because I was very sad to let go of any of the gold items that I had, especially the necklace. I was hoping that I wouldn't have to sell the necklace, like our situation would be different in the near future. So I started by selling like 1 earring at a time and then a few weeks later another one. But it felt like the time was just coming very fast and that things were not changing, you know? And because none of us was working, we needed that pocket money and I basically had to rescue us, I guess. And this is after the sugar daddy everything stopped. And the money that I mentioned earlier in part 1 of my story was barely covering any of the bills as it is. And because of that, I felt really bad asking his mom for any money unless it was like super necessary or a legit emergency situation. Hence why I kept selling my gold. Okay. So I'm gonna tell you guys a quick event that happened that's very important to part 3 of this story, so everything kind of like falls together. All right, remember earlier how I mentioned that my best friend and her family lived in the bougie areas of the city? Yeah, so we had to pack our bags and move in with them because the city that we lived in kept getting more dangerous and it was just really hard to live at.